Good evening, everyone. Hope you're well, and hope you're looking forward to the next live stream lesson, or this particular one, obviously. So right, we will crack on as usual. So the usual kind of things. So if you've got any other devices on, it's always worth turning those off. So you get your undivided half-an-hour guitar time. If there's any children watching, having an adult in the room to help them with any little bits and pieces they don't quite make sense of is always helpful. And yeah, kind of without further ado, we'll just get started. So I will play the tuning notes, so just kind of tune in with these if you can. So start with our bottom E string. Want to try and make sure you know adjust the pegs as you need until it sounds the same. Okay, and then onto A. And then we're on to the D. Then our G. B. And then finally our top E string. Okay, cool. So hopefully you're all in tune. It's all sounding more or less the same as that. Obviously, if you've got guitar tuners, you know how to use them. So much the better. You know, you can get yourself prepped in advance. Last week, that was our first one after a bit of a break for summer, so we just sort of recapped a few tunes from earlier in the book. So today what I was hoping, or what I was planning on covering, was a couple of the exercises that we covered sort of at just before we sort of stopped for summer. So I think exercises 16, 17 and 18 from Guitar Quest 2. There's a little bit of explanation I need to go into about those as well, which might sort of help make sense of things a little bit more, and then hopefully we'll get on to some new notes. So or new exercises, I should say. I think there's one new note. Other than that, I think everything, pretty much covered everything then at that stage. So okay, so let's as a bit of a warm up, we're going to go through the treble note recap and the bass note recap on page 11. So if you want to turn to that page. We'll start with the treble notes. Obviously, hopefully these will be fairly familiar to you now, and then we'll go on to the bass notes in just a second. So, hopefully you're on that page. So after 4, starting on that G, we're going to go forwards and backwards, and we'll play the high G twice, just for sort of symmetry, really. So, okay, so here we go. So after 4, so 3. Actually, sorry, I should say these are minims, so I'm going to count a little bit quicker. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So G, 2, and A, 2, B, 2, C, 2, D, 2, E, 2, and F, 2, and then up to G. I'm going to repeat that and come back down to F, E, okay, cool. So hopefully that makes sense. Just refreshes the memory or the mind a little bit of those top few notes there. So let's try the bass note recap. We're going to do exactly the same kind of idea. So repeating the G at the end of that that line and coming back down. So after 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. G. We're going to repeat that G, F, and we jump to the bottom E. Good stuff. Okay, so hopefully that went well. obviously in the book we have actually covered the note G, but it's just a bit beyond where we're at this stage. So, but we'll be getting onto that in a second. So the only other one I was going to cover then was exercise 13. That's on page 10, our A minor pentatonic scale. So for you, those of you that love your sort of pop and rock and bluesy kind of stuff, this is a really important scale, definitely worth knowing. So let's give it a go. Because these are all crotchets, I'm going to just slow the tempo down just a little bit, so hopefully it doesn't feel too fast. So let's give it a go. So after 4, and again, if you can alternate the index and middle fingers on this one, that would be good. I should mention actually when I played the bass notes a second ago, the bass note recap, I used my thumb. So typically when you're playing the lower strings, you do tend to use the thumb. However, if you're playing a straightforward scale, like for example, if any of you ever decide to go and take any grades or anything like that, then alternating the index and the middle fingers is probably going to serve you better overall. So particularly as things get faster. So that hence the reason. So right, hopefully that made sense. So let's try exercise 13 then. So after 4, remember we're playing on every beat as it comes. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Starting on A, and the C, and D, E, and G, up to A, and we come straight back down. And finish on the A again. Good stuff. Okay, so hopefully that sort of got the fingers moving a little bit and sort of refreshed the mind as much as anything about what the notes are and where to find them and that kind of thing. So let's move on. So the exercises that we covered at the sort of the end of the summer, if you like, before we had break, were exercises 16, 17 and 18. So if you turn to page 13, this is, we're going to look at number 16, and so it's called Arabian Skies. And there's a bit in here that I just want to talk about a little bit, which I don't think I mentioned when we first covered it. I think we ran out of time. So the idea is that we have 2 lines of music going. And that's why you might see, when you look at the music, you might look at it and think, why is there a rest and a semi-breathe in a bar of 4/4, sorry, and all these other notes and things. And that's what I want to get into. So I'm just going to bring the Guitar Quest book up onto the screen, which hopefully you can see. And so what it is, I'm just going to highlight things, is we have these 2 lines of music. So if I sort of draw a box around this section here, that bit that's now coloured blue is the sort of the lower voice, you might describe it as, or the bass notes. And so that's 1 line of music. So if you just ignored what's in that blue box and looked at the stuff above, so I'll just bring that back. Apologies. Yeah, so here, if we're ignoring all these bass notes, we're only looking at the treble notes. We've now got a rest on beat 1, 2 quavers which make up another beat, so that's beat 2, and then beat 3 and beat 4. And the same in this bar here, so rest, then beat 2, beat 3, beat 4, and so on. So if we then looked at it from the other point of view, where's that one? So if I was to sort of block out this higher section, so this would be, the bit I've blocked out now would be what you might describe as the upper voice, or just the sort of the treble line of the music. And so, yeah, so now we can ignore all that stuff, and we've just got these bass notes, these semi-breathes, just so hence you have like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So then when you come to play the piece of music, you sort of superimpose the 2 lines on top of each other. So you have the bass coming in on beat 1, where we've got the rest in the treble line. So we use our thumb here, and then our fingers are going to play for the rest of the bar. So you could see this written slightly differently, just so that you're aware, in that, particularly with modern software, you know, like like software I use called Guitar Pro, and there's a function in it that you could say just let ring, and it would it would just allow all the notes to ring into each other. So if you didn't write them as two separate lines almost, you would just have one line and say let ring, and it would all kind of fall into place and that. But in theory, like, it's better to split it out. Cool. Sorry, I just seen a comment saying some of the pages don't line up, but actually it is apparently. So that's all good. So I was worried there for a minute. I was thinking, well, what have I sent out to people? So okay. So let's have a go at number 16. So as I say, we've got these two separate lines of music, but because we're not playing notes at the same time, they are just going to kind of sit nicely in and around each other. So I hope that makes sense anyway. So I'll play it to you first, just to remind you of how it's going to sound, and then we'll try it together. Okay, so here we go, after 4. So feel free to join in if you want, obviously. Okay, so 3, 4. Sorry, a little catch there. 2, 3, 4. So yeah, apologies, somewhere in the middle my nail caught on the string a little bit and the timing went off, hence me saying catch or something. But yeah, so hopefully that gives you a feel for it anyway. Obviously, I forgot to say at the start, if you do have any questions, do feel free to put them in the chat and stuff, and I'll answer them as we go if possible. But let's have a go together then. So, just coming in after 4, we'll go perhaps a little bit slower than that. With all these ones, because I've got the backing tracks available in a playlist on my YouTube page as well, they'll probably be a little bit faster. So we'll go a little bit slower here, at least I think we will be anyway, that's my intention. And then if you practice along with those backing tracks, then the speed's a little bit quicker. Obviously, if they're too fast, because of YouTube, you can just go to the playback speed and slow it down to 3/4 speed. I probably won't go any slower than that, because it would sound a little bit rubbish, to be honest. Yeah, so use those backing tracks to help you kind of get your timing right and everything, is kind of what I'm saying. So, okay, so let's give it a go then. So after 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, cool. So hopefully that went all right for you guys. Give yourself a pat on the back if it went well. If not, obviously it just comes down to a little bit more practice. It's what it always is, unfortunately. Even though I like to think we just pick up the guitar and crack on and it's all good. It doesn't matter what level you get to. There's always a load of practice that needs to be done. So right. So that's number 16. Hopefully that made sense. One thing actually I was going to mention as well, when we started the original Guitar Quest lessons, I think I talked about resting the thumb on the 6th string to give you a bit of an anchor point, so that when you're playing with your fingers, this just kind of gives you a reference point and it's easier to find where the strings are and so on. obviously when you play the bass notes in that particular tune, we don't want to cut the sound off. So if you're in the habit of putting your thumb back on the string, now you have to try and break that habit a little bit and just let the thumb hover. If you watch flamenco guitarists play, they would do a rest stroke, and then the thumb would rest on that particular string. That's fine to do as well. I think it's a bit more difficult overall, but you could do that if you wanted to. So yeah, just so making you aware of that. Okay, so moving on to number 17, Encounter. We've got our new note G, which is our 6th string 3rd fret. So if I just bring the music up again quickly and just point at the bit we're looking at. So this is our note G here. So you see we've got the 2 extra ledger lines and a note hanging off the bottom of it. So, so that's G, 6th string 3rd fret. So hopefully that all makes sense. So let's have a go at number 17 then. Again, I'll play it to you first. We've got the first line which we repeat, so we'll play that twice, and then the second line just once through. So I'll count in again anyway, so feel free to try and join in, and then we'll play it again in just a second. So alright, here we go then. So after 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Back to the beginning. Second line. Two, three, four. Okay, so hopefully that went well. Let's try it all together then. So after 4, I should say as well on the rests, so we're playing beat 1, we cut the sound off before we play the next notes. You may remember earlier in the book we did a bit of a percussive hit where you kind of strike the strings. You could do that here if you wanted to. You know, perhaps makes it a bit more fun to play. So just demonstrate quickly if you like. So that kind of thing. And the way I'm doing that is I sort of clench my hand up and just sort of tap down like that. You don't necessarily have to, as long as you just tap with some part of the hand. Should be okay. We just don't want to hear loads of extra string noise because that might sound a bit out of place. So, so let's give it a go. I'll do the percussive tap this time. Whether you do it or not is entirely up to you. So, okay, after 4 then. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Back to the beginning. Second line. Two, 3, and 4. Yeah, great stuff. Okay, so hopefully that went well. Give yourself a pat on the back as usual. As I mentioned before, it's always good to acknowledge the wins and things. Even if it didn't go quite according to plan, hopefully you got a large chunk of it right, and you know, and it's just a little bit more practice. So, right, let's turn the page. So we're going to go on to page 14. So exercise 18. So flickering light. So again, I'm just going to bring the music up on the screen and just talk to you a little bit about the sort of musical voices, if you like. So if we were looking at just the higher voice or the sort of treble line, we block out those bass notes. So we've got the rest on, do that. rest on beats 1 and 2, and then so we're playing on beats 3 and 4 here, then we rest on 1 and 2, play on beats 3 and 4, and so on. If we get rid of that and draw it again, and this time I take out the higher notes, and we're looking just at the bass notes now. So here we play on beats 1 and 2, and then ideally, if you can, because this is a dotted min and that's a 3-beat note, we're going to hold that G until the end of the bar, then we come in again here. But while we're holding it, we play these notes which are sort of covered up in the blue there. So so we play 1, 2, hold that note, and then on 3 and 4 we play those. And kind of the same for the rest of the line. And it's all much the same for most of the way through, really. So hopefully that makes sense. Do feel free to obviously jot a question down if you need to. But as per previously, I'll play it once. Feel free to join in if you want, or otherwise we'll try it again a second time, and hopefully you'll know roughly what the tune's going to sound like, and therefore be able to join in properly. So just looking at the structure, we have a repeat at the end of the second line, so that's going to tell us to go back to the beginning. So we're going to play lines 1 and 2, and we go back, play lines 1 and 2 again, and then finally finish off with line 3. So here we go, after 4. Remember to try and hold those bass notes as best you can. So here we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Back to the G, bottom E, the A's, D, back to the beginning. Try and hold these bass notes. And then the last line. And then we're going to cut the sound off because we have the min rest there at the end. So again, hopefully that made sense and didn't feel too daunting or anything like that. So we'll try it together. Just before we do, actually on bars 5, 6 and 7, we have the bass notes, so start of the second line, got the 2 bass notes A there, and then we're going to play A followed by C. If you can hold those 2 notes down together, so much the better, and they'll ring into each other and that'll sound really nice. And so much of guitar playing, like particularly if you're playing solo kind of guitar, acoustic-y stuff of any kind of style, letting notes ring into each other is sort of one of the kind of the characteristics of the guitar, and what makes it, what differentiates it perhaps from other instruments as well, apart from the obvious sort of stuff. So yeah, if you can hold those notes down, let them sort of ring into each other, that's going to sound even nicer. So, but if you find you get that kind of thing, you might need to just get that finger up on the fingertip. You might find that's too much at the moment, for where you're at, and that's fine. It's something just to work up to, and know that that's a sort of perhaps a longer term goal if you're finding it difficult at the moment. But yeah, let's give it a go then. So starting from the beginning, obviously, after 4. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Go back to the G. Hold those fingers down if you can. And keep them held down. Run of notes, back to the beginning, and then hold those fingers down if you can, and keep them held down. Run of notes, back to the beginning, and then hold those fingers down if you can, and keep them held down. Run of notes, back to the beginning, and then hold those fingers down if you can, and keep them held down. Run of notes, back to the beginning, and then hold those fingers down if you can, and keep them held down. Run of notes, back to the beginning, and then hold those fingers down if you can, and keep them held down. Run of notes, back to the beginning, and then hold those fingers down if you can, and keep them held down. Run of notes, back to the beginning, and then hold those fingers down if you can, and keep them held down. Run of notes, back to the beginning, and then hold those fingers down if you can, and keep them held down. Run of notes, back to the beginning, and then hold those fingers down if you can, and keep them held down. Run of notes, back to the beginning, and then hold those fingers down if you can, and keep Okay, cool. So that is the end of that particular one. Should have mentioned as well, if you see it in the blue box underneath that, it's just a reminder that where the stem's pointing down, we're going to use our thumb to play the notes, and where they're pointing up, we're going to use the fingers. Hopefully, you sort of picked up on that already, but obviously I didn't mention it. But when you're practicing, that's the technique. So what you don't want to be doing is that kind of thing, because that's those kind of big movements in the right hand are going to make it really difficult to get any kind of consistency and anything like that. So yeah, the combination of thumb and fingers is the way forward. So okay, so we haven't got that long left, but I would like to just move on to the next one anyway. So at the bottom of page 14 we have another new note. This is F, and it's the 6th string at the 1st fret. So if I just bring the bit up on the screen again. So this is our note F here. So you see we've got the 3 ledger lines and a note that goes through the bottom line there. So that's our note F. It's the 6th string, 1st fret. So we'll do that. So yeah, so what we're going to do is have a go at exercise 19, and this is just changing between the notes E, so our bottom E string, and then F at the 1st fret. So it's a nice short one. It does get repeated, so we'll do the repeat anyway. So I'll play it to you once, and then we'll try and play it together, and then I'll put the track on. You can have a listen to that as well. So okay, let's give it a go. So if you want to join in the first time, feel free, or we'll play it again in a second if not. So okay, here we go. So 3, 4. So bottom E into F, back to the E, F, rest, rest, back to the beginning, rest, rest. Okay, a couple of other little things to note. When you're playing anything at the 1st fret, if you go too close to the nut, it's going to probably rattle a little bit. So you want to try and come over to this side of the fret. You should get a cleaner tone. Depending on how good your guitar is, you might find you get a bit of a rattle kind of sound there. Anyway, it's, you know, that's just the nature of guitars really. Depends how it's set up and that kind of thing. So I wouldn't worry too much, but with this finger we just want to try and make sure we're coming over to this side of the fret to give us the best chance of getting that note nice and clean. So okay, so let's give it a go. There's some dynamics there, like quiet on the first couple of bars, loud on the second. If you want to add that in, that's great, please do go for it. But yeah, otherwise let's take it away. So after 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Rest. Rest, and then back to beginning. Rest. Rest. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. One other thing that's actually really important, I didn't think to mention actually, is what finger to use to play the F. We do want to use the 1st finger because it's at the 1st fret. That might feel a little bit challenging at times, and you might be tempted to go to the middle finger, but please don't. Please try and stick with it. We've just got to try and build the strength in that 1st finger. The other thing that you might be tempted to do is to push down with that middle finger to give you a little bit of extra strength. Again, we don't want to do that because we want to be building the strength in the hand just to, you know, to be able to do it. You know, 1st finger just on its own. You know, this middle finger might go close at times to where your 1st finger is, but as long as you're not adding pressure and weight through it, that's, you know, that's okay. So Okay, so let me just find the backing track so we can have a listen. Apologies, I forgot to line this up before we came on. So, backing tracks. Okay, so number 19. This is it, so hopefully you'll enjoy it. Hopefully it should come on now. Okay, cool. So that's the backing track for it. So it's available on my YouTube page on the playlist. So do go and check that out. Because of the note choice, it does make it sound kind of dark. So apologies about that. I tried to make it a bit lighter sounding, but it didn't happen. So that's what it is. So that is a good place for us to finish up for today. So we've covered quite a lot today. So hopefully that's all kind of made sense. And so just looking at a couple of things then, what I would suggest in terms of a warm-up for next week, perhaps go over exercise 17, so that was on page 13 there. We've got the new exercise number 19, and we'll go over 18 as well, I think, so there's a few important ideas on that as well. Aside from that, we're pretty much done. So, as always, we want to try and make sure that you're practicing ideally every day. That's, that was what we used to say. However, it's not always practical. It depends on your life situation and everything. So, but if you can do 3 or 4 practices a week, that's great. It's just trying to build that habit really. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you enjoyed the video, please do share it around with people, let them know these courses are going on. And yeah, we'll pick things up again next week. So it'll be the same sort of time on the 26th of September. So have a great week, everybody, and I will see you next Thursday. All right, take care then. Bye-bye.